I think the worst thing about society when it comes down to the internet is the parrot effect, where one person calls something bad or good, and suddenly everyone else just follows along without putting much thought into it. Stuff like this is attributed to LARPing, where they just hear it online and then they just go around parroting that statement, which of course I hate, but it's also just really dumb. And I've seen a handful of media get this treatment. Some deserve it, some really don't. But at the end of the day, I do think that if you're going to critique something, don't critique it just because you heard a guy or girl on TikTok or whatever say it's bad, unless you've actually experienced the thing they're mentioning, or you sit there and critically think about how you personally feel instead of letting their opinion suddenly be your dictator, your way of, oh, this is how I should live. It's okay to hear someone else's opinion and maybe think a different way because, hey, they brought up a good point, but it's another to suddenly just turn your opinion on its head and just say, yeah, nah, theirs is better than mine because blah, blah, blah. So I'll parrot around what they say. It's not really a good idea. It kind of takes away the idea of any individuality. Of course, the things that I'm mentioning that get this treatment is the DmC reboot. And by that, I mean reboot Dante. And the people who talk about reboot Dante being a bad character are kind of ridiculous. I used to believe this, but only because I had hatred in my heart and spite. I only specifically watched cutscenes like a broke-ass chud and did so with a non-open mind, but recently I was gifted the game by a brother of mine, and after careful consideration, I've kind of come to the conclusion Reboot Dante is still the exact same character as OG Dante. Now I know some people are probably going to tilt their head like a confused dog that doesn't know what sit means, but bear with me here. I've done careful consideration and came to this conclusion due to the fact that there's a lot of traits that the two characters have that are way too similar to consider them different in any capacity that isn't just one is the reboot, one is the original. This isn't like Netflix Dante, who has very little in common with OG Dante, but this video isn't about Netflix Dante, so we're not going to worry about him too much. In today's video, I'll be analyzing Reboot Dante as a character and explaining the similarities between him and the OG, and kind of opening up some interpretations for the character that I think could have likely been there. Please note, if you haven't played the game, I highly recommend you do so for the sake of experiencing yourself, because it's a pretty good game. But if you're just here for enjoyment and just here hear someone yap about Devil May Cry, then by all means, go ahead and enjoy. Just know that the goal of this video is to shed light on the characters. I feel he's not only underrated, but really overhated, and completely misunderstood. Anyways, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share around with others. So Reboot Dante is a character that I personally think is severely misunderstood. A lot of people will say stuff about how he's a bad character without actually explaining why he's bad, other than just random comments that kind of just don't really feel like they have any cohesive logic behind them. But let's take some scenes that a lot of people like to bring up. They bring up the fact that he smokes, drinks, and has sex with two girls at the start, says he likes it rough while looking at cats, smacks the virility drink out of a guy's hand, and punches the guard at the club and writes "fuck you" on the board. I mean, if you look at these out of context, yeah, he's totally gonna seem like a dickhead. He's gonna seem like this unlikable asshole that is just completely irredeemable, completely obnoxious, and ridiculous. A character that you could just never really jive with. Like, yeah, I could see that, but only if you looked at these scenes with zero context and the most hate-filled glasses imaginable. Like, yeah, you bring these up and it's like, yeah, of course he looks like he was written by an edgy 8-year-old rivaling the levels of character writing like Cold Steel the Hedgehog and Blood Edge the Griffin. But how about we take a moment to understand these scenes with context? The virility drink scene is literally because Virgil describes the drink as lobotomy in the can, so the drink is actively killing people and causing them to ignore their problems in society. Kinda like Dante himself when you think about it. Or, in the start of the game when he has a three-way, drinks, smokes, falls asleep naked, it's something he's used to doing. The song Throat Full of Glass by Combi Christ is a song that specifically talks about how hard it is to cry out for help and crying in pain, but it's just easier to soothe it with drinks, to forget about it, to smoke it away, have sex with women, live a very hedonistic life, and that's representing Dante. It explains why he's weird to Cat, because he's used to acting like this. But he snaps out of it not after that long, because he starts to kind of understand, like, hey, this is somebody I should probably respect, someone I should actually, be nice to. Also, him punching the security guard should not be seen as him being an ass, because I could literally bring up the times that OG Dante was being an ass to Lady, Lucia, Nero, V, and hell, even Nico. Granted, he's not 100% a dick to her, but she's literally geeking out and trying to be nice, and he's just kind of standing there like, bruh, really, nigga? Don't get me wrong, I like this scene, it's funny. But come on. Dante kind of has every reason to be an asshole to this guy, because this guy was not only being kind of a dick, but like, their friend is literally in danger, bro. Like, why would he have any patience for anybody just talking about some, yo, you're not allowed to come in this club where this ugly bitch Lilith is running it? Like, hell no, dude, I'd probably smack that motherfucker too. Reboot Dante has all these ideas down to a T, especially the fact that he drinks his sorrows away and can't really form a meaningful relationship with people due to his hedonistic nature. OG Dante did the same in the novel. To say that Reboot Dante was written by an 8-year-old is disingenuous in my opinion, due to the fact that there's nothing wrong with Edge. Even then, his personality traits and jokes are no different from OG Dante. Yeah, he cusses, yeah, he smokes, but not even that, like, bad of a thing for him to do, honestly, considering the nature of not only his character, but also what this game does. And even then, he doesn't really cuss a whole lot like some people like to say he does, because I feel like if you actually play the game, you'd know that not only is he not 100% a dick, but you'd also know that he's not cussing every 2 seconds like some people claim him to do. Now then, let's actually compare the two beat for beat, right? Alcoholism? Check. Can't form a meaningful relationship with a woman that lasts long? Check. Wants to forget the past? Check. Is incredibly rude to others by being jokey or dismissive? Check. A berserker state with their devil side that is so strong they literally have to put in effort to stop it? Check. I mean, there's so much more I could bring up and mention, but I'm pretty sure you get the damn idea by this point. But their biggest thing they have in common is their journey from going, like, from being a bum to a genuinely good person. Now I know, everyone hates the "not in a million years" cutscene, but I honestly think the hate is overblown, is completely misunderstood what the scene actually is. Now you could argue I'm reaching, but honestly ask yourself, why would Ninja Theory make a scene to make fun of Devil May Cry when their trophies are named after various quotes they have on different details of the characters from the OG, and then on top of that, they even added a DmC3 costume? If Ninja Theory really wanted to make a slap in the face to Devil May Cry fans, they would have done what the Netflix series did. And yet, despite the fact that they had every reason to, because people were hating on the original trailer and designs, they didn't. Yeah, their gay cowboy remark about Dante was completely, like, uncalled for, but they actually got writers who understood what Dante is as a character, what he represents, who he's supposed to be, and that's what matters. Add on to the fact that his journey in this game is like Devil May Cry 3, where he starts the game off with a complete disregard of others. He does not care about his past, he doesn't care about his lineage, and he does everything he can to avoid it. He hates being a demon, but for the case of the reboot, I guess, being a demon and an angel. But as the game goes on, both of them learn important lessons. Literally, at the end of the reboot, Dante learns to accept his lineage and who he is, just like Devil May Cry 3. They take on the burden of helping the world because they know that others can't. They learn to care for others. Like how Dante grew to understand Lady, and Reboot Dante learned to care and respect for Cat. And like the OG, both of them refrained from killing Virgil when they had the chance, because he's the only bit of family that they have left and still love. Sure, they're mad, disappointed, feeling betrayed, upset, and even deliver a speech about how Virgil misunderstands others. Something to point out too is that Reboot Virgil and OG Virgil don't just simply disregard their mother, but they're just kind of like weird about it. Reboot calls her a whore, and the OG just brushes it off like it's nothing. He completely disregards that and disregards her wishes for them to be good. But on the other side, you have OG and Reboot Dante, who quite literally understand that their parents are like, they had the power to conquer, rule, destroy everything, rule everything, but instead they decided to embrace feelings that are human. That's kind of what Devil May Cry is about. To Virgil, that's weak. That's something that either needs to be ruled over for the case of the reboot, or for the OG, something to just wash away and ignore. But to Dante, he views this as strength. He sees humanity as strong, and he embodies that in both versions. And I like that. There's also this scene of him getting the wig and saying the line, but like, honestly, that could have just been foreshadowing of some kind, because he gets the white hair, and he completely dismisses it. But by the end of the game, his hair turns white, and after accepting everything, you know, he's kind of like, yeah, like, this is who I am. It's a little weird, and I don't know what to do about it. But he's accepted that that's who he is. And I like that. That's pretty good. And if you listen to Subhuman as well, you would also know that this is kind of something that Dante's been struggling with for his whole life. He's literally in his 40s by the time of 5, but he's still feeling confused, feeling like a mental wreck, and on top of that, he literally feels the burden of being humanity's protector. Now, I've already covered the details of his design in the video where I ranked all of Dante's designs, but I'll still bring it up here. Reboot Dante's design is supposed to give the idea off of how miserable and bum-ass coded he is. His hair is messy, his clothes look dirty, his eyes look sunken. He doesn't even look properly dressed for what he's doing. He literally looks like a hobo that Virgil picked up off the side of the road. Compare this to 3 and 5 Dante. 3 Dante has shoes that aren't even zipped together, his bare chest and abs are exposed, his hair is messy, and likely only showered just because he had to and not like he wanted to. He even sat around the office with his shirt off, which is kind of public indecency, especially if you read the manga where Enzo shows up and Dante has his shirt off there too. He has zero regard for covering up in front of strangers. 5 Dante is the exact same. Scruffy beard, hasn't even attempted to shower, looks dirty in hell, he dresses like a broke ass. I could say more, but I'm pretty sure you get the point by now. So we're at the end of the video, but I'd like to say that while I do think the political stuff in the game isn't exactly my cup of tea, I don't really mind it that much since it does have some sort of normalcy in the story as it reflects Dante's character. Admittedly, the politics in the game could have been presented a little bit better, maybe they could have been executed better, but honestly it's fine because I think the politics reflect them in the sense that he's covering up demons and corruption. And, you know, the politics, they also use a drink to cover up their crimes. That sounds pretty familiar because Dante uses drinks to forget the stuff he has. He uses drinks to cover up the fact of who he is, and he wants to ignore all that. You know, he passes off like it's nothing. Pretty neat stuff. Just something I wanted to point out. With all that being said, I hope you guys understand the point I'm trying to make here, and it's that Reboot Dante isn't a character who's made to disgrace or destroy what OG Dante left behind, but rather to reinvent him. And if this version of him isn't your preference, which honestly, I mean, it's not my preferred version of Dante to be fair, that's perfectly okay. But don't be so disingenuous about it by saying things that have zero logic behind them, like, oh, it's good on its own, but not as Devil May Cry. Even though if you're an actual DmC fan, you'd recognize this game is DmC. It holds the same themes, the same narrative beats, and even a bit of its tone is still there, like the whole punk aesthetic and all that neat gothic stuff. It's still kind of there. Sure, there's politics and all that, but remember, this is a reboot. If we can use the bullshit-ass excuse that the Netflix series isn't bad because it's a different universe, then hell, we'll do the same for the reboot because it's a reboot. However, unlike the Netflix adaptation, the reboot does its job as what it is. It's a new universe and a new version of the IP that was already established, but it's still retaining the same ideas, the same core values. It's still recognizable as a piece of that product, not simply because of its name, but because it actually understands what even made Devil May Cry in the first damn place. And I think that's pretty good to say. Anyways, I hope you guys get the point now. Though I encourage you guys to not suddenly parrot this video necessarily, but come to your own conclusion based on what I said. This game is pretty good, and its story is pretty good, once you learn to kind of understand how much of it is still Devil May Cry at its core. The themes of humanity being strong, the themes of devils never really crying, but like, you know, that human side of you, like, it's still there. It's all still there. And Dante is still effectively the same character delivering that message to the audience, albeit just a tiny bit different. Could the execution of his character been better? Honestly, I think so. Maybe they could have done his character a bit better and handled it slightly differently, but I like to think that what they did was good enough, and it's not completely out of the norm to say, oh yeah, like this is a good version of him still, it's just the execution could have been better. It's kind of the same with Devil May Cry 2, where the idea of Dante being at his mentally lowest is cool, it's just the execution could have been better. And that's what happened here. But I sincerely hope this video helped people understand this character more, to not see him as a disgrace or a different character as a whole, or well, he is a different character technically, but not to see him as something different from Dante, but rather just a slightly different take on the foundation that was laid for him. And I think that's okay to say, considering the fact that, again, it's a reboot, and that should be something that we should at least give it a chance for, that yes, it's different, but it's done in a way that is interesting and good once you actually start using that brain of yours. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, comment, and share around with your friends, family, girlfriend, boyfriend, or dog. Catch you guys later in the next video. God bless, my brothers and sisters. Peace out.